Just had a great conversation with Aaron Nasseh, who built a payment processing company, built it from nothing, started with $20,000 and exited for nine-figure.
It was, I'll put it this way, I can't disclose it because of my agreement, but it was enough where myself and at least a few generations past me don't have to ever work again.
He was not able to say it, but I believe it was a nine-figure exit. So great conversation with him. We discuss about, what it takes to build a nine-figure company. So amazing conversation. I enjoyed every minute of it. I hope you guys enjoy too. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. So please support us in that way. And I hope you all enjoyed the conversation I just had. Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Show, where our mission is to inspire, influence, and impact other immigrant entrepreneurs to follow their dreams and create the future they want and desire. My guest today is Aaron Nasseh, the founder and former CEO of Finical Holdings. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ali. Happy to be here.
Excited to have you on, and I am I am in a privileged position to be family with you and be relatives with you. So I know you have rejected so many interview requests that you have had in the past, and it's really an honor to have you on. And thanks for taking the time and coming on the show.
My pleasure. Likewise, I'm happy to be here, and I hope that I can provide some valuable information to your audience.
Thank you. I'm really excited for this conversation. So, Aaron, give us an idea, or our audience an idea of where were you born and when did you move to the U.S., and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. I'll try to keep it as short as I can, but I'm not sure how short I can make it because it's been a long journey. But I was born in Iran, and my parents at the time wanted, because it was the war with Iran and Iraq going on, they wanted to get us out of the country so that we're not caught up in the conflict between those two countries, and to provide a better life for us, frankly. And I have an older brother who's 5 years older. He was reaching that age where if he did not leave the country, he would not be able to leave until such time that he served in the military. So we initially moved to Belgium, and I think my third and fourth grade was in Belgium. Here I was going to a new country, not speaking the language, which was French, and I had to pick that up and get through third and fourth grade. Then we went back to Iran for a couple of years, and in preparation for moving to U.S. And in 1988, we made the move to U.S. Initially moved to Southern California, to L.A., where we had family. And within a few days of arriving, I was already in school, not speaking a single word of English.
Wow.
And in middle school, that could be pretty challenging. Kids are pretty brutal at that age.
That's right.
So went through that, and by my sophomore year in high school, my brother had been accepted to school in Chicago, Northwestern University. So the whole family relocated to Chicago, and I graduated high school in Chicago. Made some very good friends in Chicago, and then he got accepted for his postdoctoral to Harvard. So we moved to Boston. I did graduate high school early. I was just shy of 16 years of age when I graduated. So I still had a little bit more time before I was of legal age and can make my own decisions. Mm-hmm. So I started the community college in Boston. And when I turned 18, I decided to venture out on my own, and I relocated back to Southern California, to LA. Went to school in LA. Towards my last year of school, when I was graduating, I'd gotten married, and my wife had become pregnant with a beautiful son, and kind of changed the course of my life a little bit, because I knew at that point that my priorities had changed and shifted. I had a family to take care of. It wasn't about what I wanted to do, as much anymore. or what passions I wanted to pursue. Was more, hey, I had to actually earn a living and take care of a family now. So I got into real estate sales. It wasn't something I was particularly crazy about, frankly, but I was good at it. I was making a decent living and enough to support the family. Some years during that time, it's worth mentioning that tragically we got divorced. My son's mother and I got divorced, and tragically we lost her. She passed away, so I became a single dad all of a sudden with a 4-year-old
Wow.
to raise. I was blessed and fortunate enough to have my mother who was there to take care of him. Otherwise, I could have never done it without her help. So a few years after that, I had a friend of mine who was in the electronic payments business reach out to me. A good friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Listen, we're looking to start this new channel for recruiting and bringing on building essentially a sales team for the company, and we think you'd be great at running it." Now, why he thought that, I'll never understand because I knew absolutely nothing about the industry. I didn't even know if they issue credit cards or process credit cards. I didn't know anything about it. But I trusted him, and he assured me that they would give me the adequate training and support to make sure that I'm successful in the role. So, I kind of had reached a crossroad in my life where I had to make a decision. Either stick to doing something that I wasn't really particularly thrilled about, or try a new venture. I took some time and thought about it, and I decided to take a pay cut and jump into this new industry. Within 6 months of being in the industry, I told them that I wish I had learned about this industry 10 years ago.
Wow.
Had I known about it 10 years ago, I would have retired by now. So I love the business. I love the whole recurring revenue aspect of it. And
What year was that? Sorry to interrupt you.
this
What
was
year is it?
in 2007.
Okay.
2007, yeah. So from that point on, my goal became to learn as much as I can from that company with the idea that I want to go start my own company someday. So the next 4.5 years was spent literally interviewing everybody over there that I can talk to, every manager, kind of picking everybody's brain. I literally treat it as if I'm starting my own company. I wanted all the questions that I thought would come up answered. This is why I always tell everybody, learn on someone else's dime. That's the best piece of advice I can give any young entrepreneur. I think oftentimes young entrepreneurs jump into things a little bit too quickly before they really kind of, learn what they're doing. And that was one of the benefits that I had. I literally learned on someone else's dime. I made all my mistakes on their dime, so that when I finally left 4.5 years later and started my own company in November of 2012, I already had a clear idea and vision of what I wanted to do. I knew what worked in the industry and what didn't work. And I also had my own ideas on how I can make things better. So that was, I started a company in November 2012 with hardly any capital. And, I think I put $20,000 that I had saved up myself to start a business, which isn't much and it's not going to go far. But looking back, it really was a blessing in disguise because it really changed the direction of the company. I had to really focus on growth and bottom line of the company more than anything else. There was no money to reinvest in the company or throw around for unnecessary marketing efforts or anything like that. It was literally roll up our sleeves and let's make this thing work. And having gained experience and knowledge that I had from the prior company, that's where it came in really, really handy. I knew which channels to target, what was going to work, what's going to have the lowest overhead. How can I make this 20 grand, go to my goal of a 9-figure company? And we did it. Started very slow, not very slow, but very lean, I should say. Literally, I was just myself at the beginning. Myself sitting in my family room and being the recruiter, the CEO, the president, the customer service, the tech support,
the sales guy.
I was doing it all. And then gradually brought people on and got into some strategic relationships. And leverage the help that I could get from other partners in the industry, namely processors and so forth, since we're in the payments, credit card processing business, payments business, um, and learn to run a very lean business with an extremely low overhead, to the point where my accountant, for the past few years, he's been saying that he's like, you need to write a book because I've never seen anything like this. I don't know how you managed to do this as lean as you did. But my point is that not having that money initially changed the entire model for the company, and it's worked great, which is why, in August of 2023, this past August, I ended up selling the company, and there was um, so much so many people interested in the company because how it was built completely different than all the other companies that are in our space. So here we are today, now trying to figure out what's next and what to do and where to go from here.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all this. Okay, we can't end right here because you gave it all away. No, I'm joking. I do have tons of questions for you. So when you got started, you know, $20,000 is more than having nothing, obviously, but it's still, you know, even 10 years ago, it would not get you that far. So what would you spend that money on is my first question. And then I have a couple of follow-up questions.
Sure. So, the 20,000 itself really, in my situation, like you said, it wasn't much. The experience that I brought on with me was invaluable. That really was the game changer, because there are plenty of people who started a company similar to mine in our space with significantly more capital who never made it. So that's why I always emphasize the point of getting the experience somewhere else, so you don't have to learn the hard way on your own dime, is truly invaluable. But for us, really, it was just the day-to-day operations, the logistics of, hey, we need to have to spend X amount on equipment, so that if when we do make a sale, we're able to provide them, furnish them with the equipment, we have something to sell. It really was just the day-to-day stuff. It was nothing more to it. I mean, there was nobody on payroll. It was literally just trying to build enough so that I can hire somebody to come in and help. And I was able to do that relatively quickly because, again, I had learned how to do it and which channels to tap into for quicker results and more better results. And the rest is history. I mean, we've grown since the inception of the company. Obviously, the first few years we're growing triple digits, but ever since then we've been growing double digits every single year. Wow. Even during COVID, we still grew double digits. So the model was, I wanted to make sure that I'm building a proper foundation for the company, and the past 10 and a half years has proved that we have. So I'm very proud of it, as you can tell.
So when I listen to you, everything sounds like very linear and very straightforward, and no challenges and no obstacles. So for the people that cannot see us, just hearing, Aaron is laughing while I'm saying this. So, but here's the question. I know it wasn't, but let's also, for the audience, give us an insight of destroy whoever is believing now that it was a very straightforward path. Please tell us that it wasn't.
No, absolutely not. It never is. And I think that's a great question, and a great point you're making, because I think most young entrepreneurs or people who aspire to be one, they only see the end results. They see sort of the glitz and glamour. They see the nice cars and the nice homes, and they don't see what was really happening behind the scenes. They don't see the pain, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sleepless nights, the divorces, everything else that comes with the territory. Because it's really tough. It's being an entrepreneur, building a successful company. If you want to build a real legit, 9-figure company with generational wealth, there is a lot more involved. There are a lot of sacrifices that have to be made. Okay. And you have to be prepared for that. And I think everybody wants to be rich,
right?
But not everyone's willing to make the commitments to get there. Not everyone's willing to make the sacrifice. They still want to have that sort of family and work balance. Good luck. What a joke that is. Show me one who's really, gone to that point where actually you can say, yeah, I always maintain a great family life balance. It just doesn't happen. So where you're fortunate enough is if you are able to have a partner, which I learned the third time around. I was lucky the third time was a charm for me. A partner who can understand and support your vision, and be there for you. And that really was a big game changer for me. When I met my current wife back in was it 2013, literally just months after I started a company. So I had nothing. I was she probably had more money than I did at the time, and since she's been there all along and been a great support. So I think that's very important. But no, in terms of setbacks, there's nothing easy about building a company. In fact, it will take you to a breaking point, and if your commitment is not strong enough, if you're not resilient enough, most normal human beings at some point will give up. Okay. This is why I've always said entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I don't mean that in a negative sense. What I mean by that is it requires a certain mindset. You have to be wired a certain way to be able to withstand all those punches all along, because it's a brutal path. It really is a brutal path. It will take a lot out of you. When you go through that process, you come out a different person. Now, looking back in hindsight, sure, you can say it's all worth it, but when you're sort of climbing that mountain, it's you're taking a lot of rocks in the face. There's a lot of bruises as you're climbing.
And there is still no guarantee that you win on the other side. You will
That's
take
correct.
all the bruises and all the punches
Yeah.
in your face, and there is still no guarantee that you come out on the other side winning.
No, absolutely right. Dedication and hard work doesn't guarantee you anything, but without it, you don't stand a chance. It's always been my philosophy.
Right. So are you comfortable giving us some examples that took you to in your career, took you close to that breaking point, and you're like, because I know you have a steel of a mindset, and you are like, hey, I just keep going. I
Yeah,
don't care.
absolutely.
I don't care, because I remember we had a conversation many years ago in a you were in a tough situation, and I literally remember, man, like it was yesterday. You said, I don't care. I just keep going.
Right.
That's the words you told me back then. So yeah, if you don't mind, tell us what.
Yeah, absolutely. The example that comes to my mind, which I'm sure you're referencing the same one, is when I was involved in a lawsuit after I started my company. The previous company wanted me to, first of all, they didn't want me to leave because I was doing so well for them. But when they kind of figured out that I'm leaving, they wanted my new company to sign an exclusive deal with them, which I refused to do because I didn't feel that I was in the best interest of my company. So that didn't sit too well with them. I was dealing with some interesting egos at that company, and then dealing with a $1 billion company. So they decided to sue me and throw everything in the kitchen sink at me. And in order to any attorney who looked at my case said, "Listen, this is just essentially a big company trying to bankrupt your company and put you out of business." And having known the executives at that other company, I know that their game plan was, listen, we're going to file this lawsuit. He's not going to be able to defend it. He's going to come back in a few days and say, okay, I'll sign an exclusive deal with you. Little did I know how stubborn I am. So I fought him for a few years with money that I didn't have. And that was the toughest period of my life. In hindsight, it was the best time because I came out a completely different person. Fought it for a few years, then they approached me and we reached this mutual settlement so we can all move on. But the fact that I was able to fight a company at their scale having hired perhaps a top law firm in the country to fight a little guy like me and to try to break me, and they couldn't do it, made me feel unbreakable. Really took my mindset from as strong as I thought it was to another level.
Wow.
But to get there, I literally almost came to my knees. It was tough. It was really, really tough to go through that. It was tough to have to borrow money from family to just pay for legal fees. It was tough to build a company every day knowing that these guys are trying to bankrupt it. So, for those 3 years, it was hell on earth for me. It literally mentally broke me, but at the same time, it kind of broke me and built me up much stronger. So I'm forever grateful to them for doing that. It literally changed my entire mindset about how I approach things. And I approach everything with a different level of confidence these days because I feel like I've been through the worst of it. Anything else would just be a piece of cake from this point on, And it's been true so far.
Right.
But that's just one that, to answer your question, that was extremely mentally taxing on me.
What was it that took you through this challenge that kept you going? Because I believe we all have some sorts of an anchor that we have, like we hold on into it, and we're like, hey, this is what keeps me going. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm not, whatever that might be. This is our why, let's call it. What
Right.
was your why that kept you going?
Well, I've always been known as being a pretty resilient person because I've had a lot of setbacks in my life. But my commitment was stronger than anything they could do. My friends always asked me, said, "Hey, did you always know you were going to be rich?" I said, "I always knew I was going to be rich. I just didn't know when." Because I knew I was committed enough to get there, and I was willing to do whatever I had to do to get there. So, having a family to have to take care of, having a son, kept me going, and I just was not going to give anybody else the benefit or the satisfaction of thinking that they were able to take me down. That's just, everything they did just fueled me more. I typically use every setback as fuel to come back as stronger and better. That's why if you ask me about particular setbacks or rejections, I can't even remember them. I've had so many on a daily basis that I'm kind of wired a little differently. I just tune them out. I just tune them out and just move forward.
Right.
And you're almost going to have to do that because at the end of the day, we're all human. If we keep holding on to those things, it's going to bring us down.
And I also, think having learned this myself in the past, I also believe that when you do this, then it becomes second nature to you.
Correct.
The moment something pops up, you're like, oh, been there, experienced that, move on, just another day, just another challenge, just another obstacle. I don't have time for this. Let's move on and focus on the things that I need to focus on.
You're 100% correct. You're absolutely right. And I think that's part of the problem in this day and age, why some people are so easily offended is because they've never really faced any type of adversity. So the first time they hear something they don't like, they're easily offended, which is sad because I think it's just overall sad. It doesn't make their life any easier because the reality of it is things happen in life.
Right. So let's go back to when you got started. When you got started, was it like, how much was it with having the end goal in mind? Like, okay, how big is this industry? What is the potential exit that I'm going to get? Is it an exit at all that I pursue? And how much was it, hey, I like the industry, I like what I do, I'm good at it, I learned a lot about it, now let me do my own thing?
So initially, when I started out, certainly it was on my mind, because I used it as fuel and motivation. But as I got more and more caught up in the sort of the day-to-day operation of the business, I really didn't care about that as much because at some point my mentality sort of shifted to, hey, I'm only going to focus on today because that's all I can do. If I can just focus on today and get through today and give 110% today, the rest doesn't really matter. The rest will take care of itself. I don't have to worry about it. And that approach has really served me well. And it's the same advice I give my 22-year-old son, who's now a young entrepreneur and he started his own business, I give him the same thing. I just focus on today. It's very tempting to want to look far ahead, but I found that often becomes a distraction. And sometimes you want to get there faster than you're really supposed to. So it leads to poor judgment. And those poor decisions and judgments can lead to self-inflicted wounds that are unnecessary. So I thought about it just enough to get me motivated, but I didn't dwell on it too much. No.
Okay, that makes sense. And when you say, you're very resilient, what was your relationship with Stoicism?
So Stoicism and Buddhism and whatever philosophy somebody wants to subscribe to, religion, whatever they prefer, I think at some point it will play a role in every entrepreneur's life, because again, things become so difficult. And what's funny is at the time when I was practicing Stoicism and Buddhism, I had no idea I was doing it. I actually read about it much later. But I think it's necessary. I think as soon as someone can incorporate those philosophies in their entrepreneurial journey, the easier life will be for them. I was just kind of taking all the shots and just kind of moving forward like a bull. But accepting things for what they are is important. I think a lot of times people confuse, can't quite distinguish between optimism and being a realist. It's very important to be an optimist, but it's equally, if not more important, to be a realist. You cannot be out of touch with reality just in sheer optimism. That backfires. That creates more issues and problems, especially when you're running a business, which is based on purely reality, not optimism.
So when you were structuring your company in the early days, I believe at some point you started cash flowing and then you're like, okay, we've got something here, let's move on. How did you keep going with the structure without, getting ahead of yourself in terms of building a lean company, which obviously was very beneficial to you down the road that led to the exit that you had? Tell us more about that.
Sure. The company started having very good cash flow fairly quickly, because we focused on higher margin accounts as opposed to most other companies that were really going after low margin accounts. So we kind of got ahead of the game a little bit, and we're one of the first players that started targeting that market. And initially, everybody laughed at me and said, that's just not going to work. And then 3-4 years later, everybody said, hey, you're a genius, because the whole industry was trying to do that.
Can you tell us, sorry to interrupt you, but can you tell us exactly what the company did and does, and what industry you were focused on? Because some of the audience might not exactly know what Finical Holdings does.
Sure. Electronic payments, which mainly focuses on credit card processing, check services, ACH services, online payments, that type of stuff. So basically, any business that you go to that accepts credit cards, they need a company such as mine to be able to accept your payments.
So it's a B2B service, right?
Correct. Correct. Okay. And the most important piece of it is recurring revenue. You set up the accounts. Every month, there is income generating from that account for as long as that customer is with you, which is what made it very appealing to me. So that's kind of what we do. And did you have another question follow up on that one? Did I miss a question?
So no, what is the process like? You send you have a sales team, they reach out to potential businesses, and then you put them on the contract. And is that how it works?
So right, great question. So we contract with a lot of salespeople. We have over 2,500 salespeople throughout the country. These salespeople go to literally use different models, but for the most part, whether they're going door to door, whether they're doing phones, telesales, whatever they're doing, or doing online marketing, they go to businesses and in an effort to offer them better pricing, save them money, and or offer one of our other programs, which essentially eliminates up to 100% of their processing fees, in an effort to bring their business over to us. And our job here, once that account is brought over, is to do everything else, from underwriting the account, to boarding the account, to servicing the account, making sure the customer is happy so that we can retain that business long term.
And what was your, or is still your competitive, or the competitive edge of Finical Holdings, comparing with all the other payment processing companies that are out there?
Couple of things. One of them is it's always been service, very service oriented.
Mm-hmm.
We have our agent base that we work with, and then we have the customer base that we work with. Okay, and both of those are we're very, very service oriented on both of those. Our almost 100% of our business is derived from our outside sales agents, sales partners. So they require a lot of servicing, which unfortunately a lot of the other companies sort of miss the boat and don't provide the level of service that they deserve. But having had that experience from the prior company, I knew that the number one complaint that most of the sales partners had was lack of servicing, lack of response time. They're out on the field. It's already a hard enough job to be out there in front of a customer. Not being able to get serviced is inexcusable. So we build out a team to make sure that they have a direct line to everybody. They can get a response immediately. And we set up all kinds of sort of servicing protocols. If you send an email to us, you're going to have a response in less than 10 minutes guaranteed. Things that help these sales partners feel more confident about working with us, and things that they can't get somewhere else. And the average in the industry, if you send an email, is at least 24 hours to get a response. Now, if they're able to get that with us, in a matter of a few minutes, then that makes their life easier and helps them be more efficient out on the field, which is our objective, and it helps both sides. The other piece is from the servicing. The other piece was we introduced a pricing program called dual pricing to merchants. We're one of the first ones who did it. We weren't the first company to offer it, to be clear, but we're one of the first ones that really started rolling it out back in, 2015. And that was a game changer because it enables businesses to eliminate literally up to 100% of their processing fees by offering two prices, similar to what the gas stations have done for a long time, where they have a cash and a credit price, which helps them keep their prices low, as opposed to having to increase pricing and build the additional processing fee into the price. But that helps everybody around. It helps the customers save money. They're happy. It helps the agents and the company make higher margins. So all around, it helped us get much higher margins than the industry average, more than 2.5 times the industry average.
Wow. Does it also have a low entry barrier? I don't think so. Or is it a higher entry barrier, which means there is less competition for people just to start it from their living room?
No, I mean, anybody can. It's from a sales standpoint, anybody can do it. If you can walk and chew gum, you're qualified to come out there as a salesperson.
Right.
But what I mean by that is the opportunity is there. How far you take it is up to you. Because it's for the salespeople, most of those positions are 1099 positions. So the sales agent, essentially operating as an entrepreneur. And to the extent that they're willing to put in the time and effort and go out there and get the sales, they're going to do really, really well, because they get the lion's share of the income. If they're going to sit on the couch and waiting for a merchant to come knock on the door, which a lot of people make that mistake, that's just not going to happen. But the opportunity is there for anybody. Now, if you want to build a company such as mine, where you have registration with different banks and so forth, that's more complicated. That's a process. It's what we're called an ISO. So that requires sponsored banks, requires registration on Visa, MasterCard, and card brands, and that's more involved. That's not as simple as let's just walk into this business and do it. That's not going to work. But from a sales standpoint, which is typically where everybody starts, it's relatively easy to just get in. Is
that also where you get started?
Well, in a way, yes. I mean, I've always been in sales. My entire background has been in sales. But I started when I started with the prior company. I started in a sales capacity, but sales and recruiting and so forth. But I was an actually employee of the company.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Okay.
But I did everything. I've done all different types of sales, phone sales, door to door. I've done them all.
So when I'm listening to you, another thing that is somehow standing out to me, which I believe was was also, or is also, a competitive edge is also how you find number one, but also how you treat your sales agents, because they're your extended arm. Without them, there is no revenue, or there is no continuous revenue. Do you agree with that?
You're absolutely right. I mean, I've always told all of our employees here that without the sales agents, we don't have any jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate the fact that in most companies, sales agents are not valued the same way. When in reality, they're the ones that are really employing everybody in the company. If there are no sales, it's typically not a business.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we do. We focus on that, and they love that. This is why typically when a sales agent works with us, they don't really leave us.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're retiring or they're selling their portfolio or something along those lines. But
Mm-hmm.
it's been very, very focused on service. We've been very focused on service, and it has really served us well.
Mm-hmm. So, people talk about success habits. People talk about their morning routines, and you see all these gurus that come up. And the funny thing is, you don't know what really got them where they are. So, but in your case, we have a legitimate case. I know your background. You exited your company for a great number. I don't know if you can disclose how much, how big the exit was or not. So tell us about that.
It was. I'll put it this way. I can't disclose it because of my agreement, but it was enough where myself and at least a few generations past me don't have to ever work again unless someone decides to be an idiot and then and piss away the money, for lack of a better term.
Okay, gotcha. So, but what I would like to know is, was there anything that, looking back now through your entire career, I think it took about 10 years, right? From the moment you started till you
Right.
exited.
Over time,
Okay.
yeah.
So looking back at it, was there anything other than your mindset that we both know what it takes in terms of mindset, and the mindset you still have? What else? Let's call it success habits. What success habits would you say got you to where you are today?
Well, obviously it all starts with commitment. You have to have the commitment to see your goal through. That's just the bottom line. You have to have resilience to be able to bounce back from setbacks, which you're going to have time and time and time again. And another key thing is you have to have adaptability. You have to be able to adapt to different situations. Whether it's economical curveballs that are thrown at you, whether it's your industry changes, regulations, whatever it is. As an entrepreneur, you have to always try to stay one step ahead of the rest, and be able to adapt fairly quickly. I think that's a very important key. And as I said earlier, you have to be patient. I see this happen all the time with young entrepreneurs where they're so eager to become rich today that it leads to making poor decisions, which ends up actually setting them back further.
Mm-hmm.
You have to believe in your vision and what you're doing, and know that you have to stay the course.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all it is. Otherwise, I don't have any crazy habits. I don't wake up at 4 o'clock to go to the gym. I didn't have time for any of that. I love it. Wish I could, but I don't. I get up, I have my coffee and breakfast, and I went to work and worked until the job was done, and came back and worked on my phone for the rest of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And went to bed, got up the next day, and did it all over again,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoyed every minute of it. And I always look forward to Mondays. It really pissed me off to have a weekend because it was 2 days and we weren't getting any sales.
Right. Right. And another great thing that I see in your life is, you're not the guy on social media, you're not the guru on social media telling all the people what they need to do. You rarely post something. When you post something, it's more kind of a joke that you post, right? So yeah, go ahead.
No, you're right. I'm a pretty private person. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a pretty private person, and kind of like it like that. My wife's the same way. So to the extent that I post something, like you said, it's either something funny or maybe share a family picture with family members, but it's really about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which also leads me to my next question. How important was it for you to network? let's say within the industry, but also outside of the industry in terms of general business relationships, maybe mentors and coaches. What was that like for you?
Great question. I have some strong feelings about this networking thing. So let me tell you what I mean by that. I think networking for most of the young entrepreneurs that I see today is not really, at least my definition of networking. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is, people attend, I see a lot of young people attend these networking events where you're paying to go to a networking event. And there is nobody in that damn event that knows any more than you do. Okay? Nobody can help. They're all in the same boat as you. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you're surrounded by people who can do you absolutely no good. Right. Now, nothing wrong with that. Right. If you're looking to go meet friends and make friends, by all means, do it. Mm-hmm. Okay? But none of these folks are in a position to help you. Mm-hmm. To me, a real networking is to aligning yourself with people who are either where you want to be, or who've at least gone down that road and have something that you can actually benefit from, some experience that they can share with you, feedback they can give you that's going to help you. That's networking. Someone at least within your field that again has more experience. You have to be able to get something out of a networking event. Otherwise, it's not networking. Mm-hmm. It's just a little party, and there's nothing wrong with that. Go have a cocktail, enjoy yourself. Meet some friends. But don't call it networking. It really irritates me when I see people paying to go to these events when most of them are not networking. Are there some good ones? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Are most of them good? Likely not.
Mm-hmm. So did you had some mentors and coaches along the way?
Not really. I did have the benefit of having my good friend who was in the industry. Mm-hmm. So during those initial 5 years with the previous company, he definitely was a tremendous amount of help, and I would definitely consider him a mentor in that sense. But for the most part, thereafter, it was really just self-educating. I've always, anybody I met, pretty much, especially when I started, anybody I met knew more than I did about that industry. So to me, everyone I talked to was a little networking event because I picked everybody's brain. I would ask sometimes I'd ask the same people, different people, the same question, multiple times to try to figure out who's really telling the truth, what the consensus is and so forth. And, so even to this day, I'm learning things. There are people that I can learn things from on every single day on a daily basis. And I try to do that, whether it's in person, I meet somebody, whether it's something I'm learning on a YouTube interview or something I watch. I'm very much committed to self-educating every single day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. When you have a life, or let's say you are in your life where most people would like to be, you have a good life. Okay. You created generational wealth for yourself and your family, as you just said. But when you look back, let's take these 10 years that you built your company and exited your company. What would you tell your younger self that was going through all these challenges and all these highs and lows and emotions?
To worry less. This is why I adapted that whole mentality of just focusing on today, because I can handle whatever's happening today. But when I think about everything else that has to happen between now and that end goal, it seems overwhelming to most people, and that leads to bad decisions. So to focus on just doing the task at hand eliminates most of the worry, and not dwelling so much in the past, letting the past go, moving on. That's the key. If you're constantly holding on to something, whether it's the past or whether it's about the concerns about what might happen in the future or what if it doesn't happen and so forth, all you're doing is creating distractions for yourself, which interferes with what you're doing today. And obviously, all you can control is what's happening right in this moment. That's it. So I would definitely tell myself to worry less. I still have to remind myself of that, by the way, because it's part of my nature. Right. I think it's part of the nature of every entrepreneur to constantly worry because you're always thinking ahead. You're looking forward to things. So, but I always try to keep myself very grounded and just focused on the now, and it's helped tremendously.
Don't you think if you have worried less, then it would not be as helpful as it was to take you where you are?
Not necessarily, because there is productive worrying, which is realistic,
Mm-hmm.
and then there is worrying about things you can't control. To the extent that I worried about things I couldn't control, that sure as heck didn't change the outcome. I'll give you an example that always stay with me. When I was going through my divorce, and I had custody of my son, and at one point we were having a custody battle. I was very concerned because I was young. I didn't have any money. I was paying a divorce attorney a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
to keep my son with me. And my ex had started dating a rich guy who had money, and he had hired her a top dog attorney to come after me. So I was sitting in my attorney's office, and I think what was that? Probably was 25, 26 maybe at the time. And we were going to court the following week. So after he told me give me the whole rundown, I said, "So should I worry about this?" He said, "You could, but it's not going to do you any good." so, so that advice always stay with me because it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple. It's so matter of fact, yet so true.
Mm-hmm.
So, to the extent that I worried about things that I could control, yes, that's helpful because it helps me not make mistakes. But things that are beyond my control, it just deprived me of positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it did.
Mm-hmm.
So now I make sure I not entirely eliminate it because I can't, but minimize it as much as I can.
Right, right. Let's talk just a little bit about your son. He has a great role model that he can look up to. Now, with what you have experienced yourself, what you just told us about, having not endless access to endless amount of money, which was good thing for you and kept you going and kept you also doing the lean, building a lean company. How much do you believe, or what do you actually do? Do you let your son have access to how much capital he needs in order to build whatever he's building, or do you limit him and tell him, hey, that's the way to go, that's the way I did it, and that's the way you have to do it?
Right. So, great question. No,
I'm asking for selfish reasons, by the way.
I think I would be doing him a disservice if by giving him any type of capital. But to his credit, he graduated high school when he was 15. He
Wow.
actually took the we were in California back then. He took a California proficiency exam, and he graduated early because he was ambitious. He just wanted to get out there and make money.
Mm-hmm.
And he started working at my company since he was 15. Oh, yeah, 15, 16, whatever he was. And he built a portfolio for himself of accounts. He sold his portfolio last year. So he cashed out.
Wow.
And he took that money, and he's now started his own ISO. And he's growing at a much faster rate than I did when I started. So I'm extremely proud of him, extremely happy.
Wow.
But I'm happier to see that he's also the same way I picked up from working from the prior company and rolled it into my new company. Seems like he's done the same thing. He's taken what he's learned here, he's added his own twist to it, his own energy, his own drive, and he's super motivated and he's doing great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but no, he's not. He hasn't asked me for money, and he knows he's not going to get any, so it doesn't matter.
That's a great place to be in. So, who do you look up to, man?
I've always looked up to my dad, because he really instilled the hard work, discipline, and commitment to family in us from an early age. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't really if it wasn't for him. Obviously for him and my mother, but he stayed back in Iran to work. 6 days a week to support us and to give us a better life.
Mm.
It wasn't easy going through years and years, of knowing my dad's thousands of miles away and not able to see him.
Mm.
Uh, but in hindsight, it was all worth it. So, but it was his commitment, his dedication to his family that I've always admired the most and still do to this day.
Mm. That's amazing. So, as we said, you're in a place that you don't have to worry about money ever again. Your family doesn't have to worry about money ever again. But are you just going to sit back, retire, and relax? Or what's next for you?
So, good question. It's something that I've actually thought about quite a bit, and it's funny because it's only when you sell your company for this kind of money that you realize it really was never about the money.
Mm.
It was about the hunt. It was about the chase. It was about the goal. It was about the challenge. Because while I never have to work again, I've thought about this. My wife would obviously love for me to just retire and not do anything, but how many vacations can you go on before it gets tiring? How many trips can you do? It's at some point, I think as human beings and certainly as entrepreneurs, we need to be stimulated. We need to be challenged. We need to have something to look forward to, something to get us out of bed every morning and want to get out there and do it. So I don't know quite yet what I want to do yet. I have a couple of things in mind. I don't know if I'm going to stay in the same industry or if I want to do something else. But I'm going to take this time for now to think about it and see what's going to get me excited enough to jump in and do something.
Mm-hmm.
For the time being, money's all invested. So I'm just kind of sitting back and trying to figure out what to do.
So don't reach out to Aaron. Money is all invested. There is no money to spend on any business.
Money's all with Goldman Sachs. I don't even have access to it.
That's amazing. So, what is your advice for someone that is listening to this conversation and is like, "Oh man, I got so much value of it, and I don't want to start something small. I want to go and build like Aaron did, a 9-figure company or 9-figure business." What is your advice for someone who wants to do that?
First of all, I hope that people were able to get some value out of this. But advice is pretty simple. You kind of have to have that conversation with yourself, and there are different levels of this game. If somebody wants the mentality it takes to build a 9 figure company versus a company that's generating a couple $100,000 a year, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with either of them. There's nothing wrong with getting if a couple $100,000 provides you with the lifestyle that you want for your family and you're happy, then that's all that matters, because ultimately it's all about being happy, right? But my point is, you have to make sure you have that commitment, because it doesn't do anybody good if you're gonna if you kind of half-assing it, start and then as soon as you hit a couple obstacles, you pack it up. That's just a waste of time and money. You have to make sure you have that commitment where you're willing to overcome anything. If you're willing to be married to your company, your business, you're willing to put your company and business first before anybody else or anything else, then, and you can honestly answer that question with a yes, then go for it. But make sure you educate yourself. I still recommend that everybody goes and gets a job within the industry they want to work at. Gain that valuable expense, learn on someone else's dime so you don't have to make those mistakes with your own money, and then go ahead and do it. Do it, be patient, be resilient, be committed, and educate yourself as much as you possibly can on a daily basis, learn from everybody around you, and then go at it 100%. But you got to go in there and take it. It's not going to be handed to you. If you half-ass it, you're going to be going against guys like me. You're not going to have a chance.
Right.
That's the reality of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing that. And I believe that's a good time to wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really enjoyed that conversation. And I look forward to maybe having you on back sometime in the future, maybe talking about your next venture that you're working on and whatever comes up for you next. Wish you all the best. and much success. I'm sure you will be successful in whatever you do. And thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and look forward to seeing you soon in person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Take care.